1.
Good evening and welcome to the Select Board meeting for March 20th. We're going to begin with the Pledge of Allegiance and then a moment of silence for our lost employee, Warren Coles.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. As you know, we lost our employee last Tuesday. He was killed in an accident while working for the town and plowing snow during the storm. And there is a notice up on the website if someone wants to send letters of condolences or we're actually, members of the employees are also collecting a small fund for him. And Stephen, you have information on services. I believe they're going to be Thursday and Friday.
They are. The wake is Thursday, I think, beginning at 4 o'clock at Carden Jones, West Springfield, and then the funeral is on Friday at 11 a.m. There is a GoFundMe page that's been set up by the family. We are also working with the family to explore additional ways to contribute donations and other, and other gifts and things like that to people. I mean, people have really been overwhelming in their kindness and generosity in reaching out to express their sympathies and offering assistance both to the town directly and to the family. So I want to, on behalf of the town, but especially the Department of Public Works, I want to send my thanks to all those who have been doing that. And we will make sure that when we have a pathway that works best for the family to direct assistance, we will certainly advertise that.
Mr. Coles was not only a employee for over 29 years, but he was also a resident of Longmeadow, and the family, longtime family here in town. The other thing is that we're going to continue to decide as a board what else we can do, and I know the new business is up here, and we're going to discuss letters of gratitude. We had towns and departments all across not only the area, but almost the Commonwealth that reached out to try to help the various departments, and the departments came together and did an amazing job. The fire department, our first responders were out there and for days went out there to work the site. And we also had the DPW, despite very, very difficult day and week, they have still continued to stay on the job and have worked very hard out of respect for their fellow employee. So it's been a very difficult week for all the employees here in Longmeadow and also for the family of Longmeadow. Were there any other announcements that you wanted to make, Stephen?
Sure. The Bliss Park cleanup day that had been scheduled for March 25th has been moved for April 8th, and that is as long as it's not snow on the ground. And I know Converse Street construction will be beginning, I think, also as soon as they may be doing some in-road work currently. But I know that's going to get started here. They're supposed to start this month. I don't know if the weather has delayed that, but they're definitely going to be mobilizing very shortly.
Okay. Any select board comments? No? Okay. Resident comments?
Richard Elias, 608 Frank Smith Road. With a tragedy in our town, the first responding fire department people were actually in that freezing water trying to rescue the gentleman. There were 4 of them there, as far as I know. And they shouldn't be forgotten. Thank you.
Any other resident comments? We'll go straight into town manager report.
Thanks, Maria. I think I don't want to dwell on the accident that occurred, but I do want to echo what Richard has said, and not just the fire department, but police, fire, DPW, really the entire organization. Everyone stepped up in ways both large in terms of first responders carrying out their duties, and also small, covering the phones. So people could participate in we had the employee assistance program down, talking to the employees to help them, a debrief, if you will, the next day, and other departments volunteering to cover the phones at at DPW, so everyone could participate. One of the department heads made the comment that you really never know what kind of machine you have until it's really tested, and we certainly were tested last week, and I think the machine, in terms of, that was a figure of speech for the organization and the people we have in our organization. It worked really well under a great duress, and I'm proud to be a part of that. Like I said, we'll be having more information about donations and things like that. There's another piece of information that I was recommended by the finance director. In terms of the overlay, if you saw your DLS alerts that came out from Department of Revenue, if you look at the overlay pages in the low, one of the metrics they use is the low margin, and it basically means that the low margin is a metric of the accuracy of our assessments. And so if you have a low margin, you do a good job that you're assessing. So I think that's, the DLS has kind of made that determination, so I think that's something that's positive.
We were the fourth best in the state.
Yeah.
I think it was fourth or fifth, fourth.
Yeah. I think it's Bob Leclerc and his office, I think, take their work very seriously, but we also have a board of assessors that is also very committed and does an excellent job as well. So it's, we've discussed this many times, our assessed value as the denominator in our tax rates is a key factor for our future ability to meet our needs. And so making sure we have the best information possible, feeding that denominator, is key. And I think that the DLS report is an endorsement of that. I don't have too much else in terms of a formalized report. I think some of the monthly reports have been distributed. I'll be honest with you, I have not reviewed them. So if you ask me questions, I'm going to have to get back to you.
Mark?
I'd like to ask you, Stephen, because I'll just read what it says. This is from Parks and Rec Department. It said, Greenwood daycare classroom improvements continue. I would hope that that's not significant, permanent, capital kind of improvements as opposed to
paint, some carpet stuff, things like that.
Okay, I just
sprucing up.
Yeah, that's fine. I just wanted to make sure that until we know where we're going, we weren't investing significant sums into that. Thank you.
Great, now he's here. He could have helped me out.
Tom?
Yeah,
0.3%.
Stephen, I don't know.
We'll read the number.
It talks in the report about the young mansion, and it says additional funds, they're trying to get additional funds to replace the decking of the porch. And so would that come from the Historic Commission? Or
Bank.
From where?
The owner. The additional funds from the owner.
Oh, additional funds from the owner.
Yeah,
Okay.
and those funds were approved. In fact, I would guess the columns are going to be, hopefully by the end of this week, installed. And I know they were delayed. They're coming from like Wyoming or something random like that, but they were trucked here from far away, and they were delayed, I think, 2 weeks ago by weather. And then they were waiting on approval to finish the decking, because you want to do the decking before you do the columns.
Right.
I did see one out of the packaging, if you will, in the front yard today, so I assume that they'll be working on those this week. And I drive by, and that project has taken so long and hasn't looked like progress.
Yeah.
But I think when the columns are up and you look at it, and you look at the detailing and the balustrade at the top of the porch, look next to on the side of the house, and remember that's what the whole thing looked like, except worse. It was listing badly, and just try to remember that even though the rest of the house looks bad, that porch was really the eye grabber and the thing people were most concerned about, and it is a huge improvement that I think will make the house more marketable for somebody.
Yeah, so it's, great. Thank you.
Any other questions on the town manager report? Okay, why don't we move ahead then to approval of minutes? Is there a motion to approve February 27th special meeting? No?
I'll move to approve the minutes for our last meeting.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? No? All those in favor? And abstention?
I'll abstain. Right.
Is there a motion to approve March 6th regular meeting?
I move we approve the March 6, 2017 regular meeting minutes.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
I have to abstain.
And one abstention. All right, and moving on to the thermal imaging project. This is a Grinspoon project, and they're asking...
Actually, I was at that one.
Pardon?
I think actually I was at that one.
Oh, you were?
I'm still delirious from my cold.
Yeah, you weren't at the 13th.
Yeah.
That's right. you can
Okay,
still
so
abstain.
did you
can
want
still
to
abstain.
change your vote, or you still want to abstain?
No,
Okay, so we have 5 voting on the March 6th. And the thermal imaging project is a project in which this artificial intelligence special stuff is coming in, and to assist the residents in identifying not only energy leaks, but I guess water leaks and things like that, that's able to do. And they don't really need our permission. They're just asking if we would support the project here in town. And they would be reaching out to the 20% that would have the most needs here in town. And then after they give the report to the residents, they will offer a list of subsidies that people can receive. In response to that, I know the Energy Task Force asked them if they would consider doing 2 of our buildings, one on the school side, one of the elementary schools, and our police station, which our report had requested that we do some extra work at the police station, and they still haven't quite given us an answer on
No,
that.
Marie, actually, they couldn't get a hold of you Friday, so they called me, and I gave them the addresses of our elementary schools and the police station so that they can go and get them.
Oh, they
get
can?
them.
Okay.
They said they were going to get them, but they needed the Google address, so I did that in your behalf.
Okay, and I thank you, I appreciate that. I also sent everything directly to all the select board members, because I know with the difficulties of the tragedy this week, the town manager really couldn't pick up another project to look into further. One of the things Stephen had asked, is there a contract or something? And I think it's nothing formal like that. It's just saying that we'll work with them in trying to move the project along or get the information out to the residents. And when I spoke to the woman in charge of this, she said they would even pay for the mailings. If we wanted to put it in a bill, they would appreciate that, but they would be willing to pay for the mailings. So I think the question is, are we willing to support the project going forward?
You need a motion?
Yeah,
Do you
I
have
think
it
so.
worded? How do you want it worded? Mark, have you got something?
Sorry.
Go ahead, Stephen. Why don't you ask questions first?
Yeah, I want to ask, what is the definition of support?
So I may have a little bit of information only because they called me today, and Maria, I think I know a lot less than you do, but I specifically asked that, and the support is in a couple of forms. One is that they're saying that within a couple of weeks, they would start the scanning in Longmeadow, and scanning takes place between 11 p.m. or midnight and 4 to 5 a.m. And it's a car that, for all the world, looks like it's a Google Earth car. It's a SUV with a big thermal camera mounted on top, and it crawls around the town at about 1 mile or 2 miles or 3 miles an hour, something like that. And obviously, part of the support is, can we make sure that the police and the residents are informed that this is part of an energy project and not somebody casing your house, that they have the right to do this just like Google Earth does. They can't see inside the house. They stressed all these things that all they're doing is looking at the heat losses from the house. So the one area, Stephen, takes the place of informing residents and supporting it, and even if the police get a call, have them say, yes, we know it's a thermal imaging project, as opposed to, getting anybody panicked. The other, though, really is communicating with residents, both about the project and as a follow-up. And as Marie said, whether how we can best go about doing that, whether it's through a website, Facebook page, or potentially just saying, here's the addresses of the citizens, and there'll be a letter in it from our Green Energy Committee or whoever else would support this letter that goes out to the 1,000 or 1,200 residents who will get the report and result of their scan. As Marie said, I think they said between 20 and 25% of the houses that are the most show the need for can most benefit from this would get it. So I think the support is not a whole lot of financial. In fact, they've said no financial, but it's never no financial because it's always in place.
Determining what houses they're going to do?
They're doing every house. They're doing all 5,200 and something houses in Longmeadow, and then the computer sorts them based on what, the highest percentage of improvement that they can make. So somebody who's got a very, very tight thermal house probably won't ever hear it back from them, and somebody who's got no insulation in their attic is likely to be on the top of the list, is my understanding, Bill.
Mark, I just a question, because it says it does an image of all the parts of the home that face the street, and so there may be a few residents whose houses really are pretty obstructed from the street, and could they make a request, or they have to give permission, I would think, if they had to go up a driveway, or
They
are
won't
they
do
not
that.
going to?
My sense is they aren't prepared to do that in this, and they're going to try to catch, to the extent they can, the sides, the front, and the other side. But, if your house is back or it's got another house in front of it, you're not going to be able to take advantage of it, this pass at least.
Because the goal is 100,000 houses in Western Mass.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's just taking the top.
Yeah, I mean, they've already started up in Northampton and other communities. They're out every night now that it's still cold.
Right.
And I think I think mainly it's website, Facebook, the police, and knowing what's happening in town. But if they are going to do our two buildings, we could definitely put that report up on the website to show what's happening with our two buildings, and then what steps we're taking as a town to try to fix those.
I think, as a homeowner, I think it's awesome, because I would love to see that the sample thermal images. I would love to see that from my own house. So I think from that perspective, there are some homeowners who are going to be freaked out by it. There's no doubt. But I think that, like you said, like Google Earth, they have the right to do it. They're traveling in the right of way, and we certainly, if we commence the project, if they commence the project, yes, we will get the word out that this is happening and try and do notifications. Our dispatch still going to get lit up, because people just aren't going to pay attention. So you're talking, the nights they're doing it, a lot of additional phone calls. I have concerns about us getting involved in terms of sending out things in utility bills or flyers. Once we do that, the perception is we own the project, and we do not. And then it's more phone calls, and hey, what are you doing with the data? What's the follow-up? I get that they would pay for the postage and things like that, but there's no way to compensate us for the additional time and energy spent answering questions that people may not have answers to. So I guess I'm not 100% comfortable with the town departments having any kind of fingerprints on this, other than the police department, like I said, knowing about it. That part is a must-do, because I do think it will be a valuable resource for a lot of homeowners who do want to know that information, especially with our older housing stock. People may be surprised by how much heat loss they're being affected by. But I would want to draw the line at, just notification that this is happening versus sending out additional information without at least having a more in-depth discussion with them.
Yeah, Maria, I'd like to suggest that our Green Energy Task Force, or our Energy Task Force, be the liaison to this organization. And I know you've started on behalf of that task force in terms of I envision having this group, and I don't know who these people are other than somebody called me today, but to come back and say, here's the contribution we would like the town to make, or here's how we want the town to get involved, and I think the Energy Task Force is a group of, understanding citizens who can come back and say, do a lot of the filtering, then come to us with what the crux of the matter is, Stephen, understanding your requirement that, we can't turn over, 5 town employees to do this, but let them do the sorting and come back and say, if there's resources needed, here's what they are. Maybe they can handle it within their task force, and we don't, the town employees don't have to do anything at all. That would be my hope.
I think I'm uncomfortable about things going in bills too. But I think there is a medium point where we're not really getting employee time being spent on this, while at the same time we allow them to do the project. I like the idea, Mark. You do have residents there that are willing to help out with the project without involving town employees. Tom?
Well, I just, in terms of the temperatures, I mean, when is this going to happen? Because we're going to get pretty warm. It's first day
Especially
of
we're looking
spring.
today,
First day of
yes.
spring, I mean.
Yeah. Well, it's
and I'm
either going to
wondering,
happen or not happen, depending on the weather.
Well, next week's supposed to be a cold week, and they're, I mean, like I said, I asked, that's the question I asked.
Oh, good.
When are you doing it? And they said, we're out now, and we expect to be in Long Meadow in a week or 10 days.
Okay, all right.
But, because they're doing it between midnight and 5 a.m., I think they only need it below 40 degrees. I mean, they don't need minus 20 degrees to get this done.
Great.
Any other questions or a motion?
I'll move that we I don't know if the right word is request, but we direct that's what I want. We direct the green energy, our energy task force to work on the home thermal energy scanning project and report back to the select board with what other additional resources or needs they may need from the town to get the word to community members.
Before you finish that motion, a question, does that mean that the foundation can move forward with the scanning next week?
They don't need our permission to do
They don't need our
that.
permission to do it.
Okay, all right, so you're not.
They're going to do it
okay.
anyway.
All right.
I think the question is, is anybody from Long Meadow going to go talk to them about the data they have?
All right, I understand your motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? All right, thank you. All right, moving on to the Greenwood Park Master Plan. I know that it was introduced to us, and now it has gone into the hands of the Adult Building Committee, and they are going to be reviewing it and coming back with some recommendations or comments on the plan as we move forward. And I just didn't know if anyone else had some concerns they wanted to add to that, or did we individually want to reach out to the Adult Building Committee on where our thoughts are?
Why don't we wait and see what they come back with?
Okay. All right, I guess the only question I had was that this is something I know we've been batting back and forth in regards to the daycare center. And the daycare center we're now looking to have that part of the plan, and I was wondering, should we ask to have a report on the profitability or the viability of the daycare when we look out in the next 10 years?
Maria, I agree that daycare is a big part of it. I mean, the plan we got was half daycare, half adult center, or half Parks and Rec, half adult center. I keep saying, and I've said this early on, should the town be in the daycare business or the before school or after school business? And I think there's a role for the town to play. I'm not sure what it is, but then again, that's not my forte. I think that's Barry Jarvis's. Whether our role is to compete with what I'll call all-day daycare in the private sector, or provide before and after school services to our residents who have kids in school who may be, working parents who can't pick up their kids before 5 o'clock. But clearly, I think the issue for me is that, when you say profitability and you use that word daycare, it's a whole different ballgame when you're talking about a multi-million-dollar capital investment, because, our daycare doesn't figure in what I'll call occupancy into the cost of the facility we have now, because it's there anyway. I mean, whether they're there or not there, the building's going to exist. But in fact, if we are building a facility that specifically has room for this daycare before school, after school, one needs to consider, do the cost of that capital get rolled into the evaluation of what's the profitability of the building? Because, if we didn't have those programs, or had more modest programs, it's likely we would build a different facility than the one that's proposed right now. And whether the money's different, more or less, or whatever it is, I just look at, it's a tough call to say, what's the profitability? And from my perspective, we're nonprofit as the town anyway, and so I think the bigger decision is it a business or is it a service that the town wants to be or should be in long-term, from one extreme to the other, whatever those are. And I've clearly already expressed that I see a distinction between all-day daycare, which private sectors handle very well. There's a kindercare down the street, and there's JCC does it, and everybody else does, versus the before and after school programs, which is a very different service. And so I think it's a more fundamental decision. Should we be in that business long-term? And if so, then we can provide the facilities, and if not, then we don't provide the facilities. So different decision for me than just that.
I'll just comment, because, the alternative is to have in-home daycares, and, they're much harder to regulate. I've been to a lot of in-home daycares that were really just a big screen television where the kids get parked in front of this TV most of the day, take a long nap, and then they're sent home to their children. And so, we look at a community-sponsored or a community setting like we have currently, it creates a lot more reliability for parents to know where their children are. It's open to the public all during the operating hours. We're sure that everyone working there has gone through Corey checks and are certified, it opens up the opportunities for people who are early childhood development majors to, do internships at a place like that. And I just think that to move in a direction of having people set up, I know we have some in-home daycare centers in town, but to have a shift at this point to that, I wouldn't see where that would be a step in the right direction. I mean, we do have the JCC as the other option that you hadn't mentioned, but I think that if it was a venture that was problematic for the town, we would know about it by now, because it's been at it how many years? I don't know.
I'm not sure how long we've had it.
25 years.
Quite a long time. So,
26, actually.
but that's what I'd have to say.
Richard?
I'm not going to get too involved. I understand Mark's point. I agree. It's a business decision. It should be anyway. We have commercial facilities all around this town. We're not talking about opening up daycare in the community. They're all around us already. They're in place. They have transportation, they have insurance, they have Corey check people, all of that's in place. The question comes down to, do we have a daycare center in this town? Is there a real reason for it, or is it just a nice, warm thing to do? And that basically is a business decision. As far as I'm concerned, that's what we have to. You have to be looking at the profitability statement, or are we going to say that it's a subsidized daycare system for certain people in our community? I know since I've been on the board, that's not always been a profitable situation. There's been times when it's been bailed out. Stephen, you're well aware of that. It's not exactly a corporate type structure. I've never seen that environment brought to the board where we've had a profit statement coming back, so it looks like it's a break even, if anything. I've never seen anything that would suggest that it's a money-making operation. I've seen quite the contrary when we've had actions from the board, but I may be wrong. I'm just saying what I've experienced. But we're in competition with the outside, clearly.
It's not just the daycare. And I think that's the easiest thing to look at. It's also the summer camps. And
I agree.
I don't want the summer camps to fall out, because summer camps are a valued service. Are they a self-sustaining service? No, but they're part of the suite of services we offer, separate really and apart from the daycare and the extended day. Mm-hmm. And they're headquartered, they occur at Greenwood. And part of our planning was to be able to have those continue to be at Greenwood. We've discovered that if you wanted to move them someplace, you would have to construct a facility to accommodate those camps. Indoor spaces for rainouts, bathrooms, places to, staff to stage and mobilize programming and things like that. Are we going to get out of the rec program business altogether? Because that's what you're talking about.
No, I don't think that's what was discussed right here.
No, I know,
We're
but that's
talking
the
about
net effect. That's the net effect, and I think we need
if
to.
we don't do daycare,
If we
we're
don't have
getting out of
if we
Parks
don't
and
have a
Rec.
facility to run our rec programs, then we aren't. And I think we've learned that we can't build a facility over at Bliss Park, which is where, because the thing with the daycare, the summer camps need to be next to a pool.
Well, I think there are various functions right now in the building, and right now we're looking at a large building. My question is, as we look at the various functions, where are these functions going to be in the next 10 to 15 years? I see summer camps as a function, I see after-school programs as a function, I see daycare as a function, as well as we're looking at the use of the gymnasium and the various functions we're looking now for the adult center. I think the question we need to do as we go forward in the planning, and we're still in the planning stage, is are all those functions where they're going to be in 10 to 15 years? And I think that's my question. And right now, I'm assuming, and again, I've never seen the numbers, that the after-school and the camps are very robust programs. I just don't know if the daycare is a robust program too, or from the years I've been on, it's been teetering back and forth. And I think we have to start deciding where our core missions are on whether it's Parks and Rec or the adult center going forward. Because there's going to be some things that stay and some things fall off the table on both departments.
Right, but the things that stay still need space.
Oh, I agree. I'm not talking about getting rid of Parks and Rec. My question is, if your analysis would be where we'll be in 10 years in regards to daycare. That was my concern. And I don't know the answer to it. I really don't. And I think it's worth to be a part of the discussion, because it's something that I know this board's been talking back and forth for several years.
Okay.
But it's right now, so there's two things. One is where are we going with our core mission, and second is we need to hear from the Adult Building Committee where their concerns are and where they feel it's really important that they need the space. And then the planning can continue.
Where we're going with our core mission, what are the space implications of, what are the options and space implications?
Yes, yeah.
And then the Adult Center Building Committee.
And
Because there's a space component to it. And I say also every year, should we be in the daycare business? And I also do that analysis from time to time. But there's a threshold over which you cross where you need a certain amount of space to do some of these programs, and you're either in or out to a certain degree. So if the extended day and the summer camps are profitable, or are the services that are in most demand, and we just want to get out of the daycare business, that's fine. But you still need a place for the extended day and the summer camps, and that's what I think it's just. We're not just, if we say we're going to get out of if we're going to get out of the daycare business, doesn't mean we're going to lop off the side of the building that I showed you in that plan. I guess that's my ultimate point. Is that doesn't mean that you can just have the building without the space for that.
No. I'm just talking about, that was my concern when I saw the plan. I said, well, where are we going to be in 10 to 15 years in regards to that? Not in regards to getting rid of all of Parks and Rec, definitely. That was not my concern.
Yeah, the feedback I've gotten, and I've only heard from about maybe half a dozen to a dozen people, but was all that it looks like we turned the park into a parking lot, that there's an awful lot of parking. And I recognize that one of the deficiencies that we say now is there's not enough parking, but I think that if, we're looking for a plan that can get approval at town, and we're taking Greenwood Park, and if you look at the amount of, available, if you will, square feet of grass space, one versus the other, this appears to have a significantly less than we currently have, and that's just feedback. I don't know that there's an answer, but if that appears to be a concern among people.
Any other
Yeah.
comments?
One of the things I'd like to see on that design is a layout of, if the current building comes down, and that's going to be field space of some sort, a layout of something there. I think they had a tennis.
No, they had 2 soccer fields.
Would those fit there?
That's what
Well,
they
two
showed.
youth soccer fields.
Or one.
Or you could fit
base
one regulation soccer
regulation.
field.
Yeah.
I think that, we can certainly, I mean, that was just illustrative, but what's in most demand is flex fields. So not baseball diamonds. And this is all just based on participation numbers and, rental numbers from the Parks Department. It's the flex fields that can be used for a lacrosse game, field hockey, soccer,
Right.
frisbee golf, what have you. Those are the fields that are in high demand. That's what is really proposed in that master plan. And Mark, I hear you. That struck me too. I think one of the things that Dietz tried to do well was soften the impact of the parking area by putting in planters and islands and things like that. But you're right. People complain about the lack of parking now, and it would be disappointing if it was the same people complaining about too much parking in the proposed plan, because, which way do you want it? In fact, in one of the meetings I attended, it was, we need more parking, which is, at certain times, is true. There are times where the center, Greenwood, doesn't need more parking, but there are times where there are activities and programs that are popular, and people end up parking, parking is tight. We added 11 or 12 spaces just by doing some striping fairly recently, so we've tried to expand that. But, there's, it can't, as my grandfather used to say, if Jesus can't keep 12 apostles happy, how do you expect me to please everybody? I think there's not everyone can get everything they want out of the plan, and that's one of the things that, was part of the internal struggle that, Barry and Amy and then Mike and I worked on the plan. It was, how do we get the greatest good for the greatest number out of this? And I think that's what I presented when I presented the plan. It's, we'd love to have the ideal perfect thing for everybody, but I don't. And if the Adult Center Building Committee has that, that's great. I'd love. That'd be good.
Well, I think the more eyes, it'll be interesting to see what we come up with, and eventually when we have a new department head, it'll be interesting to hear that perspective too.
I'd also say that parking lot, if you've ever been to a bike rodeo, that would be a great place for a bike rodeo for kids, because it would really be a big space. I don't think we have any open space like that. Where
Right
kids,
out in front of the high
Right
school
out,
here.
right out where we're sitting? Yeah, right here.
yeah, I guess that's true. This would be about the same size.
Yeah, this is bigger.
Is this going to be bigger parking
It's a
lot
good sized
here?
lot, and I think he wanted to show maximizing the space for parking, conceiving of a day where you have a lot of programs, a couple of pickleball games going, either summer camps or, the children's center is at full operation and the pool is maybe open, and you have soccer games going on in the fields, and how you could accommodate all of that. I think he just, I think as the architect, Margaret Crescentini, tried to make clear, it's a concept and things can change within it. It's not a nailed down, bid document. I think he just wanted to show the opportunity for maximized parking. If we don't want to put that, if we come up with a plan, we don't have to put that much asphalt down. It's a choice. To some extent, there are zoning regulations and use requirements, but beyond that, it's a choice of the town.
And I think you hit it. It's a beginning of it's a concept. And so as everyone on the board reviews it, send your concerns or recommendations to the Adult Building Committee, and they can
Okay, is that
bring
who's
that up.
looking at this plan now?
Yes, and I'm hoping that we will get a response from them by the end of April. Oh, before then, okay, so it won't take that long. Yeah.
Who else-
Well,
who else-
we probably won't be back on the agenda till the end of April, is when we'll.
Who else is looking at this thing?
Well, I'm sure it's gone back to Parks and Rec, and they're probably reviewing it too, but that's just assumption because it hasn't been presented to the Parks and Rec Commission yet. And so they're probably, I know they have a meeting coming up this week also. And then I think when we were in our meeting, one of the things we talked about was having a charrette, not a charrettes, charrette.
We have Shiraz while we're at the charrette.
For a townwide planning, so a lot of stakeholders can get in and start reviewing and making recommendations. So just send things in to the various groups, and we'll hear back the end of April about further discussion on it. Any other concerns? How do people feel about hearing back on the daycare? Or is that just something I could do offline with Stephen?
I mean,
Offline.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll talk to you offline about it.
it doesn't, I mean, at the stage we're at, it doesn't really directly inform I mean, if we want to get into the gradient, the other thing is it doesn't add a lot of space. When you have to have space for summer camps and things like that, it doesn't add a lot of square footage. And if we were out of the daycare business, it's more square footage for town offices, adult center expansion. I mean, there's other, but you have to, it's not just this, it's too fine a point to just say if we're out of the daycare business, we can give up all that space.
Oh, I didn't say that,
Right.
yeah.
But-
it just,
but I think
it opens things up a bit.
It's not that, it's a slippery slope between saying, should we be in the daycare business, and if we're not, that means we don't have to build that space. That's
No,
not
I didn't. No,
Where's
that was
the
not.
line in between?
I
I don't
never,
know.
never said
You
that.
can't solve all problems tonight, so
That's it.
well, we just move on.
Okay.
And I know we're not in the warrant, but since we're on the subject,
Well, actually, the next thing is the warrant.
I mean, I was just going to segue into the article. I think the article that we proposed, that I would recommend, is it can either pick up where the master plan has left off, or it can go back to the drawing board. I mean, I think we're committed to Greenwood as a site. That allocation can get us further along.
And which article is that?
The 250,000.
No, I mean, what number is that?
I have no idea. It's the first one on the second night. Is that in the 30s maybe?
No, it's
The
20
20s?
something, yeah.
Well, no, you have May 10th.
Yeah, it's not the first one on the second night.
31.
Right.
Oh, second night.
It is 31.
And so that includes.
Oh, right. It is the
It's for the
second
purpose
one.
of funding for design.
Yeah, I wrote, the one
Or
that went out in the
planning,
packet
should
in
we
the
put
email, I had added the description that I sent out after.
That's the one I just printed out.
Okay.
Oh, but you got in color. I didn't get mine.
Oh.
I don't have a color printer. So in here, it says for a greater sum for the purpose of architectural engineering for design of a new or renovated adult center. Okay. So it's all about the adult center,
Yeah, and nothing in the narrative says, continuing with the
the plan.
Greenwood master plan. I mean, it's, and I don't think we should bind ourselves to that at this stage.
So, Maria, based on the Warren article, and I know we're kind of jumping here, but one of the things I've heard a few people say is, when did we give up renovation totally? And several people have given up renovation, but the Warren article says for the design of a new and/or renovated. And so I guess my question would be, do we charge the group that's doing any of this work with saying, we need two plans? One that says, here's what a renovation will look like, and here's what it'll cost you, and here's what you'll get. And here's what new will look like and cost you, and here's what you'll get. I think the people in town are going to want to see those two.
I think
And-
I'm sorry.
But no, I
That
you
was
know,
done, though, wasn't it?
Yeah, the initial deeds report did a fair bit of that.
Well,
And I say,
then why are we wording this warrant article to say renovated if we have no intention of a renovation? Because people still are hanging on to the fact that we might be able to renovate it.
if I said one or the other side would have said, why are we saying, if I had only said new facility in the article, it would have said, well, are we foreclosing the idea of renovation?
Well,
If I'd said only
but I
renovation,
just
people
said
would-
it, and Bill
Yeah.
immediately said, and you said we've given up on it. So if
Yeah.
we've given up on it, let's
No,
tell
no,
people
I
we've
said-
given up
I
on it.
think, Mark, I
said the
think
design has
what
been done.
the next phase can certainly do is re-look at I would recommend against two separate plans. You certainly want some analysis, some further analysis of renovation versus new construction, but you don't want $225,000 plans. You want a $250,000 plan that gets you further along. The deeds report, I think, concluded, and we talked about this last week, on a per square foot cost basis, renovation is really a terrible deal for the town, because you spend a lot more money per square foot to get a building that was built as neither a children's center nor an adult center. And I think that's been the Dietz report, the initial one, their idea of renovation was, just bring up the existing site to code compliance and then put on a new addition to get what you really need. I mean, if you ask me, you're right. I think you should strike renovation. If you're going to reword it, I mean, I don't think it's a realistic thing.
I think you were the one who requested the renovation added to it, but I think Dietz has made it clear it's going towards a new, and renovation, he said, is highly not recommended.
Marie, all I think we need to do is be straight with the people in the town. And I mean, I already expressed my desire to look at two different things, because I think people need to be able to say one versus the other. But if it's the sense of this body or the Adult Center Building Committee or whoever it is that we're not going to look at renovation, then why continue to hold that out as an option? Let people just know what's going on, and they can go up or down on a new facility.
Was there a motion to amend Article 31?
Well, I'm not going to make a motion, because I think we ought to have both options.
I understand why Stephen put it that way. I mean, it has a better chance of passing.
Well, but it's disingenuous, Bill.
No.
If we have no intention of doing that.
Sorry, Bill.
No. The reason I brought up the fact that study had been done before was just the information is available, not to just forget about it.
Okay.
And I have the jump stick that I can give to you.
No. I mean, I remember reading the original proposal or original evaluation that had the weird L-shaped extension on it. So there was a plan. I'm not sure it was great, but it didn't do anything for parking. It didn't do anything, But the fact is, there was a plan. All I'm saying is, if nobody ever has an intention of renovating, then we shouldn't hold that out to the people in town. That's all.
Something just occurred to me in discussing this, though. The original Dietz report discussed renovation of the adult center side. I think now that it's a select board project, the select board can make a choice as to whether or not they want to look at renovating the entire facility and making different spatial assignments and things like that. I mean, if you're really gonna, when we met, when I was developing with the plan, when Barry and Amy and I were developing the plan that we presented, it became, to do this, like I said, it was really about cost per square foot. What do you get? The efficiencies you lose, the benefit of having the opportunity for playing space, like kind of the positive sides of it. But if you want to relook at renovating the entire building and then redoing the space assignments, that really is an option that has not been explored. And I guess I would say maybe that does merit some consideration under the article. But if the board wants to commit, I mean, it's not a good investment. But if the board wants to leave that open, that's fine. But I mean, it's your choice. I think you're right. I think the best value for the town is to build a new facility.
Stephen, I'll just say I'm not sure that the analysis that you would take as a for-profit business, that it's not a good investment, is the same analysis that would lead the town to say it's not a good investment.
That's based on just square footage, cost to build, and things like that.
Right, but in terms of people's desire to not interact with the current fields or not move the Molly McAvoy playground, or it may be that the only thing that can pass town is to tell everybody who's there, you're moving for 18 months while we rebuild in place and come back. That's not anything anybody wants to do. We've done everything to avoid doing that. But I got to tell you, somehow we managed to move the administration of the high school to an elementary school for 2.5 years. And if there's enough room for the administration of the high school, I got to believe there's enough room for preschool, daycare, whatever it is we want to call it, for 2.5 years, if we want to do that. And if we wanted to do it with the adult center, I'm sure we could find some place to do that. So my only point is that it's a whole different ballgame when we're talking about a municipal facility, and this driving force that says we can't put it in the same footprint, or we can't renovate that is I think may be problematic long term when it comes time for people to vote, especially when the costs keep going.
It doesn't seem to be a motion on the floor to switch the article, so let's keep it at new or renovate it, you can send your recommendations and comments to the adult building committee as looking at keeping the footprint and not changing the fields around. And we'll see, maybe it will move off. We're still waiting. I think Dietz was coming back with the, what his plan for a building was, what the cost will be, and the adult building committee will come back with they have still time to work it, and they'll finally have the resources to do that over the next few months. So there's nothing that we're changing on that. So should we just go on to the actual warrants and things that we do need to change? Everything else has sort of been put in place except the DPW articles were the only ones left. Was that correct?
That required some data.
We already voted the budget,
Yep.
so that's done. And so the next articles are 9 and 10. And so we have our CFO and our attorney here to answer questions or to talk to us a little bit about, do you want to start with Article 9?
The language for Article 9 was complete. Yeah, it's still there. Except for the amount of the appropriation, which I think will.
I think there needs to be a minor correction. The second to the last line, purposes of terms and conditions deemed by the select board. I'm sorry, this is the line above it. Figures in here for the purpose of speaks to the purpose of construction and equipping a new Department of Public Works. To insert that.
This is in the actual article or the description?
The actual article, the fourth line down.
Purpose of.
Purpose of constructing and equipping a new Department of Public Works facility.
How about for tents, for the purposes of construction and equipment, not constructing, but construction and equipping?
I just think it's kind of bare the way that it is right now.
I agree with you, Paul, but I think just to make it sound right, could be for the purposes of construction and equipping. Or constructing.
If I may, I think constructing would be
Fine.
proper, just because you're not taking it in order to equip it. You want to keep the.
For the purpose of
Just
constructing?
I think that should do it.
And equipping, or
No,
you
just
don't want
constructing.
equipping?
Just constructing, because the improvements and the equipment are going to follow in the larger appropriation and debt exclusion vote, I think. So that's a fair point. Thank you.
And are we adding what the fair market value of the property is now?
We don't. Do we have it? I don't think
Well,
we have.
we can maybe discuss that later.
Okay. All right,
or
so
we
there's
can-
nothing else to change on this?
I'll just tell you, if people remember, I don't believe if people remember the tenor of the last conversation we had about it in executive session. There was a recommendation made about which approach to take, and we did check that with our counsel, who's our special counsel.
Mr. Egan concurs
Mr.
with
Egan,
our position.
and
Okay.
he concurred with our position.
Okay, so
Yeah.
we'll have that number for town meeting?
We'll have it tonight. If you want to discuss the number in executive session,
Okay.
if
We
you
have
want to
it.
go with our recommendation, we can just
Okay.
have at it. We can put it in.
So can we, if there's no other changes on Article 9, do we need to vote on
That's
it?
even better.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't know, Counselor, if you just want to just announce it,
Marie,
put it in.
I think we
mean,
just should talk about the money. I mean, we talked about it, and the recommendation, I'm going to tell people what it is. It was.
Well,
you
do
know,
we have the second,
We do.
so everything's completed?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
We know
the-
the two numbers, and we had, after reviewing the information, we were recommended the consistent position of going with the higher amount,
Okay. And-
which is
The assessed value also.
which is close to the assessed value. It's $2.6 million.
Okay,
So we can put that in.
okay.
We just put it in.
Yeah. Does that need to be and it should be in the motion itself, right, the article?
Yes.
Oh, so it's going to be in the article, not the description?
Both.
Okay.
Well,
So it said, so the bottom, it says, raise and appropriate transfer from available funds or borrow, instead of a sum of money, we should put $2.6 million.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Now, what about Article 10? Is there anything that we need to change on that?
So
Other than the number?
The upper end number, which includes everything but acquisition, okay, is $18,605,000, and that includes a broad scope of work, demolition of the existing facility, and some demolition on the current facility, soft costs, permitting, all of it. That's everything but construction. And so you would take the, and it could come in anywhere from
Constructing equipment.
17.8 to 18.6 is really the range where they're seeing with the bidding climate. But Weston Sampson recommends the higher number, 18,605 plus 2.6, and maybe you put in, a small amount of, there's contingencies built into each of these numbers if you wanted to build in an additional contingency.
No.
Okay.
I don't know, how do you guys feel?
So the way the article is written, it says to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of, for the purpose of acquiring land located in Long Meadow, okay, and constructing, because that's to acquire and construct, so we add the two numbers together, right?
Acquire and construct, right?
That's my understanding.
DPW.
He just gave us the number 18,605.
18,605.
Yeah, to put in there.
Plus
Plus the acquisition.
plus the 2.6 for acquisition.
But that's in Article 9.
2.6.
I think you need to combine
them
them
together
in that
in
article for
10?
purposes of the debt
Oh,
exclusion
okay.
vote.
Okay, so.
Yeah, maybe, yeah.
So the number isn't 18,605 in Article 10.
It's 21,205.
21,205. Any other changes or recommendation in number 10?
Yeah, I think the explanation at the bottom ought to split the two numbers, or identify the two numbers separately. I'd suggest it say, the article would appropriate $2.6 million for the acquisition of land and $18,605,000 for the construction and equipment. Just so that we have those two numbers separately.
I think that sounds
But
good.
that's just in the
How does
explanation.
everyone else feel?
Yeah, well, people are going to want to know how we got to 21 so quickly.
Yeah.
So,
And going through the presentation that was given by Weston and Sampson, and I can show you the most recent bid numbers that they've had. I can put it on the screen if you want, but it's, they have, what basically the approach Weston Sampson did, and this is why there's a range, is they took the average bid price, and we're conservative, and that's how we came up with the $351 per square foot. They have seen some bids come in as low as $315 a square foot in 2016 for a almost identically sized facility in Hopkinton. So, then of course there was one in 2014 that was $344 a square foot, larger facility in Norwood. It all depends on the marketplace and available contractors and a variety of factors. So, but because we only have this one shot at it, we don't, or I should say, the feedback I've gotten is just ask us once. We don't want to go out to bid with the project and then be short. I think one of the messages from the Adult Center Building Committee, the DPW committee, that is really key for folks is, this is the minimum building we need. And if we're short, you're cutting a core function of the facility back. It's not like the extra rooms we built on for future expansion get cut. You're cutting a space for a person who works there today. And so and I think I mean, I'm certainly not happy about the price. I don't think anybody is, but I know I have total confidence in the plan, and that's how much they say these things cost, and Weston Sampson knows it better than just about anybody.
So, Stephen, one of the issues, though, I just did the quick calculation. The difference between 315, which is, say, a similar facility in Hopkinton, and the 351 we're using is $1.6 million. I mean, it's not chicken feed, as they say. It's a bundle of money. I think that people need to understand we're going to go out at the lowest bid and somehow explain that we're only going to spend what we need to spend. And the problem we get into is when it says build and equip, somebody say, well, if we appropriate 18.6, you're going to spend 18.6. Somebody will always find a use for it in building things, and I think there needs to be a commitment that'll be based on the square footage that we actually, or the price per square foot we actually get with the bid.
But the problem we've discussed before is that sometimes the timeline is so long, and you don't know what's, the
Right.
cost of materials and all the other things. And
Right, I mean,
hopefully
we
it can
can't
be
go
done
out and
cheaper.
only get 350, base it on 315, you're right, Bill, but on the other hand, people need to understand you're only going to spend, just like we did with the high school, we went back with an underwrite on the high school because we didn't spend all the money that was, well, in that case, we spent all the town's money, but we didn't spend all the money that was appropriated. It was $77 million.
And I think that the good news is the level of design on the schematic level of design that we're at. Schematic sounds, in construction, that's a real thing, and that's an important benchmark. We have a good sense of the cost in a way we never have before. I know it is higher than has been talked about before. I will tell you that when I was talking about $15 million, and this was something that was a mistake of mine, I was talking about the building cost, and the building cost is 12 to 15 million for the building. There's a couple $1 million in soft costs and 900,000 in contingency that are built into the project estimate. That gets you to your 17 to 18 million. The whole project, if it works out well, you still could end up, without, soft costs and everything else, building a building that is less than the 15 million, but the project is what it is. The other thing is, if we didn't have to acquire land, it would be under 20 million. So, like I said, I think that for the people at home, I know the case that the DPW committee is going to make is, and it's true. This is the building we need, and this is what they cost. And I know
it's not going to get cheaper.
And it's
We've
not
discovered
gonna,
that.
Yeah, I mean, we can wait, we can put it off, but it's going to get more expensive, and the needs are going to continue to grow, and our options are going to get even more limited than they are today, and they're pretty darn limited. Like I said, I'm nobody's more disappointed. Maybe Richard Foster is.
I'm a realist.
But I'm disappointed that the number's so high as well. I wanted it to come back at 9 million or something like that, because I knew it's a tough sell to the community. The lower the price, the easier to sell. But I have full confidence in the plan. I know the people have worked hard on this, and I trust Weston and Sampson's knowledge of the marketplace. This is where we're at, and I don't know what the options are.
I think it's important that people understand that, in my mind, this is to preserve the other places we have in town that are never going to be voted to have this.
Mm-hmm.
This is out of sight, out of mind. It's more expensive. But, if you don't do it now, and somebody builds a $10 million office building there in a few years, and then you decide to take it, it's just, that won't happen. So now you're back to the
You're
wolf's
limiting your
swamp.
options. Yeah, you're limiting your options even further to municipally owned land.
Yeah, Bill, I think the way to look at this is the cost of building is what the cost of building is, and I'm not sure whether we put this building on Little Swamp Fields or Bliss Park or under the water tower or wherever else, that we're going to make a significant difference in the cost of the building. And I see that we're paying $2.6 million additional for the purposes of putting it where the town wants it, or more importantly, as you said, for not putting it where the town doesn't want it.
Yeah, that's a better way to say that, Mark.
Which is the double negative. And when you take that cost and you whether you amortize it over the life of the building or you amortize it over the projects that or the facilities that we're not disrupting, that's the cost to the town of putting it in this location. The rest of it is, we can build half the building we need, but that's not going to do the trick. We need the building we need. We have the facilities we have. I mean, the most telling thing to me was the I think it was Leverett, but the town that had the fire in their DPW facility and lost millions of dollars worth of equipment a year or so ago. And we don't need a fire. We could have a building collapse or something like that. Right now, our salt sheds don't work. I mean, so the fact is we've got, countless number of dollars worth of equipment. It needs to be protected. It needs to be, controlled. And I think the building's long overdue. So I support the building, and I also support this additional cost for not having to put it where we don't want it.
Richard?
Yeah, it's already been said, I'll just say it again publicly. The people who designed this are experts. This is all they do in the world of engineering across the country. And they're not a small firm. This is a very large firm, and they exclusively design and build DPW complexes. I know I've talked to you offline several times on this. The pricing reflects what is happening across the region. This is what the complexes are costing. Now, our people cut 10,000 square foot out of this structure. Our own people, when they reviewed the plan submitted by Wesson and Sampson, they sat down and they started Xing out spaces. They took, I mentioned to Maurice, for instance, tires. The major tires that we replaced on our equipment. They opted not to have a tire shop because they said, we will farm out that service. It's better to farm it out than try to do it in-house. It's a dangerous service, hard to keep your inventory up, so they opted to just get rid of it. Now, these guys aren't greedy. They weren't pyramid building. They were being very realistic and straightforward, and they said, take it off. They dropped storage spaces off they didn't feel they need. They systematically went through every single square foot of this structure in an open format, open public meeting, and started taking these pieces off. We've been studying this for 3 years. No project in the history of Longmeadow, as far as I can see, has ever been given this much study and research and scrutiny and looking at it with a magnifying glass. And sure, I wish it was $5 million. Well, it's not going to be $5 million. And it's going to be 2 to 3 more million next year if we don't build it this coming year. And we could have built it for 3.5 back in '88, but of course, we can't compare to '88 because the standards and the health and safety codes. Folks, there's hundreds of these things that have been placed on the books since 1988 and this year. I brought up a paper and listed all of them, and it's scary. And it'll be that many more between now and next year, too, because we're finding out more about health and safety of employees, and they're bringing in tighter and tighter regulations, and they all equate into a more expensive facility to have your people work at, to provide a reasonably health and safety environment for our people. So you're going to hear us talk about it, but there's no defense. I'm not defending the project. We've got the experts that designed this thing for us. You don't get any better than Wesson and Sampson. And you can't get any better data than what's being used in the Commonwealth today for facilities of equal size, purpose being built. This facility, we've even gone to the point of taking a blueprint and putting every single vehicle in our fleet in a parking spot on that plat so the general public can look at it and say, yes, they didn't overbuild this thing. This thing is narrowed right down to absolute needs. I don't think there's 3% expansion for future growth in it because we told Wesson and Sampson we are not expanding. We're already built out community. This is it. So that's not even in this project. So you can't say that we've overexpanded that way. This thing has been brought back to bare bones. And I think everybody needs to be told that and repeatedly told that. This is not a wish project. This is a minimum qualified project that has really been scrutinized because everybody was aware DPW complexes are not popular. They're not glitzy. They don't get many votes. They don't get a Lancer Pride. They don't get any of these other things that these glitzy projects get. But that's where we're at right now. We've got to go to town meeting, and we've got to defend it as strong as we can. And I know the DPW committee is committed to this project. And that's a cross-spectrum of our community, a wonderful balance of our community. And they're all highly committed now, and they do support it. And they're going to be willing to take on the general public and talk about this thing and defend every single piece of this project. They're prepared to do it, and I know they're going to look forward to the opportunity to tell their story. I give my soapbox back.
Well, Marie, I'll make a motion we accept Articles 9 and 10 as currently written and I guess modified today. Paul?
No, I was going to say on Article 9, Mike and I were just talking from an accounting standpoint, it just looks like we are appropriating the money twice. So we need to tweak a little of that language at the end of Article 9. I don't know if you had a suggestion there.
Yeah, the sum of, after borrow, comma, the sum of $2.6 million as set forth in Article 10 for the purposes of this article or anything, or act anything in relation thereto.
So you're saying you're going to separate it again? It'll be 9, 10, and then the explanation will combine the two?
No.
We just don't want to have it that the town raise and appropriate or borrow some of 2.6 in Article 9, have them vote affirmatively, and then have exact wording in Article 10, because it looks like what we're doing is duplicating.
Okay,
So he,
It's just to avoid an accounting issue.
right.
okay.
So there, Mike has come up with language that will reference from Article 9, the fact that we are going to raise by borrowing the 2.6 million, but that is actually going to take place in the affirmative vote in Article 10.
So, Maria, I'd like to modify my motion then, and I'd like to actually read the article so that we've got it. Debbie, it'll say, to see if the town will vote, and this is the way the warrant's going to be written, to see if the town will vote to authorize the select board to acquire by purchase, gift, or eminent domain any fee, easement, or other interest in all or any part of a parcel of land owned by Familia LLC in the town of Longmeadow, known as 170 Dwight Road, and designated on the town assessor's maps as map 234, block 3, lot 35A, map 234, block 4, lot 35A, and map 177, block 136, lot 35A, approximately 12.07 acres in the area, for the purpose of the construction of the constructing, for the purpose of constructing, right?
Yep.
A new Department of Public Works facility or other municipal purposes on terms and conditions deemed by the select board to be in the best interests of the town, and to raise and appropriate, transfer from available funds, or borrow the sum of $2,600,000 for the purposes of this article as set forth in Article 10, or act anything in relation thereto. Is that what you were looking for, Mike?
I would put the,
He just read it exactly as it's written here, so.
He
yeah.
just added Article 10
yes,
instead of just article.
Which is,
where the debt exclusion language is.
right, which is what you wanted, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. Debbie, were you able to follow that?
Yes.
Good.
Okay.
Is there a second?
Second.
Further discussion? All those in favor? Okay, is there a motion for Article 10?
Yeah, so moved. No,
with
this
the-
one's moved as written.
As
No.
written with
You modify the writing on too?
the sum of 21,205, is that correct?
Right.
Any other changes to the article? No?
I'll second the motion.
Okay, any further discussion? You're still going to split the numbers in the description?
Explanation, in the explanation, yes.
In the explanation, okay. All right, all those in favor? I think, I agree, the number's high, but anyone who's gone down to the DPW current facility knows that our DPW employees are not used to luxury, and they're not expecting luxury, expecting a safe, clean, efficient environment, and I have a lot of respect for the DPW task force. I feel that they have, as Richard said, have been working really hard to keep it down, and they're not going to let the costs get out of hand as they build it, and they're going to keep a close eye on it. These are really not just members of our community, but I think they're professionals.
Oh,
And
yeah,
they've
I've
shown
spoken
their
to some
work,
of them,
yeah.
they know it is what it is. They, yeah.
I think if I could just make one more comment about it. Well, first of all, thank you for putting this on the warrant and bringing it to the voters. I still go back to my job interview, and I was told this was the #1 priority, and I think I'm pleased that we have been able to, in a relatively short period of time, deliver this back to the voters in a much more comprehensive and knowable way than it has been previously. This is a new high water mark for this effort, and I commend the board for their support and their commitment to this project. The second thing I would say is, if there's an option that wasn't considered and reconsidered and looked at a different way and thought of and And I don't know what it is, and I don't know if anyone could find one, because as Richard said, the level of thought through different task forces, even before I got here, the ones back that Mark was on in 2008, I mean, this has been looked at every conceivable way, and this is the best option out there. And there really aren't very many others. Bill, I think you make a great point. If the owner of the site decides, I'm going to sell it to somebody else tomorrow for, $1 gazillion for an office building, it puts it out of reach for us. And then where do we have to? Because I think when you talk about $3.3 million in '88, they've also moved the 100-year floodplain since then, which really makes the current site unbuildable, as we've discussed. So I just say, for those who look at the number and just say it's too expensive, I'm going to vote against it. I just would ask, please, talk to someone in the DPW committee, do the research to understand how it got to here. Because it wasn't because we didn't think of something.
Just one other thing, just on Article 10, the board will need to vote a ballot question for the general election to follow this on the actual debt exclusion vote. We can have that to you probably for your next meeting.
Oh, we don't have to wait till the vote goes through. We vote the ballot question the next meeting.
You have to vote the
think you-
ballot question, so you meet the timelines.
Okay.
Right.
So that will be on the
right.
agenda.
And the language is very straightforward. It's right out of the Mass General Law. So.
It's mandated by the statute.
All right. Is there still another Article 15 we have to vote on? Or did we finish everything? That's highlighted.
We never,
Huh?
It wasn't on the last.
Oh, it was? Oh, because we had to, because the change in the law changed that.
The Municipal Modernization Act required that revolving funds now be established in bylaws and ordinances, despite the fact that you still need to set the limit at the annual town meeting.
Okay.
I frankly don't know what the legislature was thinking.
Making life easier. Wasn't it the Modernization Act?
They are actually looking to repeal that section.
Great.
Are they?
Yes. I heard that last week.
But in the
Wow.
meantime, is there a motion to approve Article 15?
I move we approve Article 15.
Second.
I would mention that the chapter reference in the second line
Yes.
should be Chapter 44 as opposed to Chapter 22.
Oh, I see.
Second line.
On the second line in the actual article, because in the explanation, you do have it under
Correct.
44. Okay. So, as corrected, is that your motion?
Yes.
Is there a second?
Yes, second.
Further discussion? All those in favor? Okay. And those are the only two, but we need to reopen.
Wait,
Yeah, there was something else?
There's just some minor things on Article 32.
yeah, so I would point out to the board, and I know the descriptions aren't worth the paper the ink they're written with, but I did add, over the weekend, I did add a description about the Greenwood, or the we just talked about that. I did add a description that's new. I just want to get the board's feedback
Hold
on it.
On which, 31
On
or
the
32?
on the adult center
So
design
that's
article.
31.
You did? Did
Yeah.
we get that?
Oh.
It's in red. The description in red is the one I wrote. It had no description.
Second one you sent?
Yeah, I sent one out Sunday.
Oh, yeah, I didn't, that's
Yeah.
not the reason, okay.
So you don't have to, I mean, you don't have to.
It's just the
correct it.
explanation, so-
Just the explanation, so sometime before it goes to the printer, if you have any comments or edits for that, that's fine. And then on Article 32, I did add the language. We had not voted on Article 32, to my knowledge. Or did we?
I thought we did.
We did.
Well, hold it. I have a question, though, on your explanation on 31. I don't understand what you said here. First of all, you're saying the requested appropriation be in addition to the prior two appropriations totaling $85,000. I don't think I think that goes way beyond what 31 is about. I think that it's going to cause more confusion. What master plan? They're not voting on the master plan with here. They're voting on $250,000 to move the adult center project forward, not the master plan. So I wouldn't include that. I would just say, Plan 2 has been ongoing for more than 3 years.
They're not voting,
Significantly-
Marie, they're not voting on the master plan, but every description, especially if it's been previously voted on by town meeting, at least most of the ones, the description talks about how did it get to this point. And when town meeting has previously appropriated funds, we always put the previous appropriations in the description. So if you want to take out the reference to the master plan, and we don't have to talk about this now, if you want to take out the description, the reference to the master plan, that's fine. It just it was telling town meeting, how did we get to where we are today?
Well, I don't think the master plan has to do with the final appropriation on that. That's
We
just,
should talk about that later.
okay. So, because you were
Because
asking us.
basically what you're saying then is the master plan isn't really a thing now.
No, I was saying the master plan, it's, because like, what did Mark just say? We might be going back to renovation.
Right.
And
The
it
warrant
might have,
but the
we're not-
warrant
the
article-
$250,000 is not to move the master plan forward.
And that's not at all what the article says. The article itself is explicit. This is just some history explaining how we've gotten to making this additional request.
No, I wouldn't, I think that it'll add confusion on the master plan, bringing that in right now.
Okay.
I don't know how everyone else feels.
That's fine. It's just a description. We don't have to figure it out tonight. We have a couple
Okay.
days to do that. And then the stormwater description I did add, and then we did add, I sent the board in the packet, as a part of the packet, the fee analysis. Did I receive that? So one of the concerns Paul has raised, and I'm not sure when the right time to address it is, you know, we do say, because people don't want to know what's the fee going to be. That's the first question. So we were recommending a fee of $2.25 per month per residential unit, which is all of the houses, single, double, and triple families, 3 families. And then you guys have the data in your reports on how there are certain, and then once you get non-residential, it's based on ERUs and then a discount of ERUs the larger that you get in the property. So I wasn't going to put all those rates in the description, but for the vast majority of people, it's going to be $2.25 a month to get to that $200,000 threshold to cover the increased cost of MS4. How do we explain that this is just to cover the costs of the regulation, not our stormwater costs? And how do we want to communicate with town meeting that the fee is an enterprise fund fee, and therefore it's going to be, basically a cost recovery in the future, that it's not going to be a for-profit, thing. Right? Did I say that right? Jump in.
Right, no, right, it's not a moneymaker, it's basically to cover cost.
Yeah.
There will be no, like any enterprise fund, it's just covering cost.
Now, on the list, you give the top 10 ratepayers, and so like the 1, 2, I don't know, 4 of those are at least town properties. And now, will the town be paying this rate?
Yes.
We will be, okay, all right, that would be fair, that we pay the rate as long as everyone else, and
So hold it, the town will be paying,
these costs here.
okay, and will go into the fund, and then the schools pay too?
Yep.
Well, there's, some are school properties.
Schools currently pay water and sewer, this is basically being treated the exact same way.
Okay.
Yeah, as the town, whether it's a community house or police and fire department, everyone is being assessed water and sewer. They would be assessed also in this particular case.
Okay, well, there's an article about transparency, so that's pretty true.
We don't actually have the bylaw here, though.
That's one of the things I wanted to ask you about. The bylaw is 8 pages.
Oh, sure.
One of the references I put in here is we have it available by request at the Select Board Town Manager's office, and we have it available on the website. If you want to print all 8 pages in the warrant, we can do that. I don't think we typically do that for bylaws. I think we usually just make them available for people to review.
Well, I got to tell you, Stephen, unless there's some kind of summary of that bylaw that goes out with the warrant, which has to be distributed every home, it doesn't stand an ice cube's chance of passing. And I understand it's not lovely to print 8 pages, but there's got to be something besides saying this is a bylaw about, especially a stormwater utility that is perceived by some people as a tax, whether it's a tax or it's a fee.
All right, we can put it in the warrant. It's
It's
just
gotta-
going to bulk the
You
warrant
got your
up.
answer.
Yeah.
I mean, that's my opinion. I'm only one of 5 votes. But I don't, you know, here, so.
It would be, I would think, a reason for people to say, well, we're not going to vote on it because we haven't seen it.
Again, we just wanted to bring that to the board.
Just wanted feedback.
Attention and wanted feedback.
We'll put it in the warrant, no
We
problem.
have the feedback.
Put it in, you know,
No, it's-
six-point type or something. I don't know.
No, I mean, I think we just wanted to get some feedback, because we usually keep bylaws out, especially if they're.
But there's at least a summary that the bylaw is either it's a revision of a current bylaw, or this, you know, not to say this bylaw on stormwater utility is available on request, but somewhere, somebody ought to be able to write a cogent 2-paragraph that this is or maybe it's going to be a 5-paragraph, or maybe it's a page and a half, but either way, it's not 8 pages. There's got to be some summary.
I'd rather pay to put the thing in the wall.
Well, okay, then be accused of slanting the.
You guys have seen the bylaw. I think the bylaw is a pretty approachable document. It's not a lot of cross-reference legalese. It really is straightforward rules and regulations, so I'm fine putting.
I mean, I just want to know if anybody else feels the same way that I do. Somehow you can't just.
I think it's got to be in the warrant.
Okay.
Anything else you wanted us to see?
Again, I think one thing that was left out, the 225 is per month, per house. The word per, or the slash on that thing, the explanation just needs to go in, that's all.
No, did these two?
I mean, you can always put it at the end of the warrant and an addendum to the warrant if you're worried about it just being a mess in the middle of the warrant, but.
Yeah, we'll work it out somehow.
All right, so now we
Print
need.
it small.
Yes. 4 point, not 12. We need to reopen the warrant to pull in all our changes and then close it again, which I understand there's some changes in the citizens petition that's coming through.
I'll place a motion to open warrant.
Okay, is there a second? Yeah. Any further discussion? All those in favor? All right. Against?
Yeah.
Okay. And so the changes went in, and I guess there's an additional citizens petition and a removal and a replacement of another citizens petition. Did everyone get all that
And
information?
that one was in the recommendations from the moderator.
Yes.
Yeah, the original petitioner withdrew her petition because it was not going to be found in order because it wasn't ordered correctly. So the moderator worked directly with the petitioner. The other one, a citizen was stung by the other citizen's petition.
I can see there's going to be a lot of comments.
Oh,
during town
I was wearing it out at the staff meeting a couple weeks ago. And so there is a new citizen's petition related directly to another citizen's petition that's been filed.
So
What happens if two petitions, and I should probably ask our attorney here, two mutually exclusive citizens petitions pass?
And their resolution sent to the meetings? It's kind of.
No,
Bylaw
they're both bylaw proposals. They're mutually exclusive. One says, thou shalt not allow beekeeping. The other says, we shall encourage beekeeping and allow it. What if they both passed?
That's a question for the Attorney General. I think this newest article, 44, is not a bylaw amendment, so we don't have to cross that bridge this summer. But that's a really interesting question. I'm not quite sure what we'd do. But that's why we have Attorneys General.
That's why she picks them.
I can see
We have enough hurdles.
I just see, my son works for the Attorney General. I can see this going into my son's office.
So is there a motion to close the warrant?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor? And do we need to ask you to post it, or that's all we need to do with the warrant, right?
No, you sign it and you close the warrant, and then you sign it, it shall be posted, right? Or do you have to vote to post it?
The Finance Committee will get their recommendations in next Wednesday. We normally, it could be posted, but it'll be reposted with their recommendations on it. Once they have their recommendations, again.
It gets posted without the recommendations. It goes to the printer with the recommendations.
However it works. I think we can update it wherever. You can get posted without, but,
What?
You have plenty of time to post.
yeah.
But I think they usually like to sign it and post it. Well, what happens, we do have some of the typographical things to clean up, but it's signed. And so this is basically in effect the warrant.
And so moving on to seasonal liquor license renewal. Is there a motion to approve that?
Yeah, I move we
Thank you,
approve the
Dave.
seasonal liquor license renewal for
Again.
Franconia Golf Course. I think it's, what's it known as, the
Cafe.
cafe on the 19th hole cafe or Clubhouse Cafe. Thank you.
Second.
Is there any further discussion?
Second and third, fourth, and everything.
All those in favor? Okay, is there a motion to approve the one-day liquor license for the boys lacrosse fundraiser?
I'll so move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? It's going to be a comedy night, and it sounds like fun. What day?
I think we have to put the date on the, in the motion.
Okay, and what's the date on it? I don't think I printed that
Hold
part
on,
out.
I've got it right here. Hold on a second.
It's going to be on
in May.
5/13/2017.
Okay,
I think we have to approve it for 5/13/17.
okay, and so is there a motion? And you so moved, and Tom seconded for May 13th? Any further discussion? All those in favor? Okay. And the last bit of new business is letters of gratitude. As I stated before, and the town manager stated, we had a lot of surrounding communities.
Yeah,
and
either reached
organizations.
out to offer to assist or actually assisted. I did distribute a list from the fire chief based on his kind of recalling of things. I don't think that's an exhaustive list, so I think the thing is authorizing, Marie on behalf of the select board to write, thank you letters and sign them to the community. Like I said, it was overwhelming, and I mean that in literal sense of the word. It was, early on, it was almost hard to get through the day because of the kindness and generosity that was being shown by surrounding communities and agencies, and the governor's office, the lieutenant governor did contact us directly. Somehow she got a hold of my cell phone number, so my phone rings on Wednesday morning, and I'm like, hello, hi, it's Karen Polito. Hello. So in all sincerity, it was it really was great, and we do owe a debt of thanks.
And you said Armada's...
So when they were extracting the vehicle from the scene on Wednesday or Thursday, they had, the state police had, a bunch of people down there. We had a bunch of people down there, and they had a kind of a mobile command center, and they went to go get, sandwiches to feed the, first responders who were involved in that operation. And when they went to go, one of our fire captains went to go pick it up from Armada's, and they saw what it was for, they took the receipt off and donated the food. So.
And that was like 180. That was a huge
it was
number.
more than that. Yeah.
Large. That was a huge donation.
And and certainly other local businesses have also reached out. I mean, Armada's was just kind of the right place, the right time. But other businesses have certainly reached out. And the other thing is, I don't think, there are going to be plenty of opportunities for demonstrations of kindness. And I think that's the thing. This is going to be an ongoing issue for our organization, our town, our community, but also the department.
So I'll get these letters out right away and send copies to the board. And you'll keep us informed when more things occur.
We'll start working on that.
Yeah. Anything else in regards to new business I didn't put on? Or subcommittee reports that anyone wanted to mention? Okay, I'm looking for a motion to close and go to an executive session, not to reopen, to discuss litigation.
So moved.
Is there a...
Second.
Roll call?
Mark?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
Marie?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you very much for joining us. Our next meeting will be April 3rd.